Hi, I'm here from Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland NHS Talking Therapies to deliver this session on supporting your wellbeing during times of civil unrest. So within this session, we are going to cover the impact of civil unrest, the impact on you as an individual, tools and techniques to manage your wellbeing in times of uncertainty and fear, how you can support those around you and where you can turn to for additional support. So let's start off with focusing on the impact. When the social and political landscape breaks through into our lives, leading to riots and civil unrest, the impact can feel very frightening and disruptive. The climate of fear, destruction, and uncertainty can scar individuals, neighbourhoods, and nations. Even if you aren't directly involved, news and social media can make you feel as if you are. Direct and indirect exposure to civil unrest can take a toll on your body and mind. This is a time where we should be standing together in solidarity rather than being fueled by division. The impacts of these events will impact everyone differently, but know that however you are feeling, you are not alone. Managing uncertainty is difficult and anxiety provoking, especially when connected to an event or circumstance that's unforeseen and frightening. You haven't had time to think about or prepare for the events, and this may trigger feelings of shock and disbelief. During periods of distress, we may experience extremes in our thinking habits, behave in ways that are unusual for ourselves, or experience emotions that we're not familiar with. Managing uncertainty can be particularly difficult during national or world events. This time of uncertainty shakes our sense of safety, and we may become hypervigilant or fearful in activities or tasks that are usually mundane or part of our everyday. No one should be made to experience feelings of fear, and know that any feelings of fear are valid. The events that are occurring may have a wider impact. This is not by any means an exhaustive list, but maybe some of the areas we notice a change or an impact. Starting off with family and friends and relationships. The events may have a large impact on those around you, or those around you may not feel that they know how best to support you. It can also be difficult if people who are connected by close relationships have differing opinions. Socializing. You or the people around you may have taken a step back from socializing due to any fear, anxiety, or uncertainty attached. You may be experiencing anxiety around attending your place of worship, or you may find yourself changing your usual routines. Engagement with the media. You may find yourself becoming overwhelmed by what you see or hear in the media, whether this is social media or on the news, and you may find yourself taking a step back from this. Or alternatively, you may find yourself obsessively watching the information that is shared. This information is powerful, and it's understandable if this impacts on how you feel. Later on, when we look at worry, we will look at the impact of engaging with the media online. Schools. There may be worries or concerns about your children going to school or holiday clubs during this time. Hobbies and interests. You may find yourself withdrawing from the things you usually turn to for pleasure and enjoyment. Exercise. It may be that the things you usually do for exercise you no longer feel safe doing, such as going for a run or a walk or being in the gym. Employment. You may experience feelings of anxiety travelling to work or may be concerned about individuals you work alongside. And finally, use of public transport. It may be that you're not feeling safe in travelling via public transport, which may impact on all of these areas that we've just been through. Now let's think about common reactions. Awareness of the emotional impact may help you accept and understand your reactions to this really difficult situation. This will promote healing and moving forward. In addition, it will assist you in understanding how to protect your well-being and that of others, what helps and what perhaps doesn't help. Here are some common reactions that you may experience during uncertain times, as well things to keep in mind and coping strategies to help you to recover from the stressful event more quickly. The following reactions are all normal, should be expected, and are usually short term during intense events such as civil unrest. If they last longer, so longer than a couple of weeks, significantly disrupt your work, everyday life, and interpersonal relationships, it may be time to seek help. However, note that if the events are ongoing, it is natural for the reactions to continue. Be mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and physical state. Notice which healthy activities and social connections help you deal with these responses. If emotional or physical reactions prevent you from taking part in valued activities and relationships over many weeks, consider reaching out to services such as NHS talking therapies, or you may have access to support within the workplace, such as an employee assistance programme. And later on at the end of the session, we will visit all of the services that are available to support. Feelings of shock, so feeling that this is an unreal experience and sense of not really being here. Feelings of fear and anxiety over the safety of yourself, your co-workers and your loved ones, especially for those of us who feel particularly targeted by the unrest. Nightmares about possible scenarios or flashbacks of things you saw during the event or on social media footage of the event. Trouble eating or sleeping, difficulty concentrating, thinking clearly or making decisions. Forgetfulness or absent-mindedness, feeling angry or on edge, a sense of huge frustration that this is happening. Hyperactivity or lethargy. You may feel that the pace of your daily activities is slower than usual. This usually diminishes once you get used to your normal routine again. You may also feel hyper alert and jump from activity to activity. Negativity. You may have witnessed some of the worst of human behaviour and feel much more cynical about people as a result. This typically diminishes over time. Emotional fatigue. Your ability to handle stress and emotions may be temporarily reduced. You may have a much shorter fuse or tolerance for any other stress. Extreme exhaustion. Even if you are getting enough sleep, you may be feeling this feeling of exhaustion and tiredness. And finally, physical reactions such as stomachache, headache, shakiness, or muscle tension. So now we're going to move on to look at ways that you can support your well-being. When things feel overwhelming and out of control, focus on what you can control, and that is how you look after yourself during these challenging times. So here is a list of the tools that we're going to move throughout the session, looking at how to support your well-being. So we're going to start off by looking at becoming aware of how we're feeling, being kind to ourselves, tips to help to reduce anxiety, practice tools to manage worry, be present with mindfulness. We'll also look at relaxation and self-care. And then at the very end of the session, we will look at the support available should you need it. So let's start off with becoming aware of how you are feeling. So the very first important step is getting to understand how you are feeling right now. When we're feeling overwhelmed, it's very rare that we stop, we take a step back and tune into how we are feeling. You may already be familiar with these vicious cycles that underpin the principles of cognitive behaviour therapy. So all of us fall into these vicious cycles, and it's about having the confidence and the awareness to be able to recognise our own individual vicious cycles for ourselves. These vicious cycles are how our thoughts, the thoughts that are running through our mind, how we're talking to ourselves, influence our behaviours. So the things we either do more of or less of because we're feeling a certain way, which in turn impact our physical feelings. Our physical symptoms that are going on inside then impact on our mood, our emotions, and how we're feeling. They then impact on our thoughts, our behaviours, physical symptoms, and so forth. And as you can see, these arrows as part of this cycle are multidirectional, so each area can impact on one another. We all get stuck in these vicious cycles, and you may have heard of cognitive behavior therapy before. And how CBT works is it helps us to recognize when we're falling into these vicious cycles and learn some tools and techniques to start to make some changes to some of these areas to be able to break out of these vicious cycles, and hopefully things will start to feel a lot better. This tool in itself is really helpful to help us to recognize how we are feeling so we can put techniques into place that best support us. So here is an example of some changes that someone may have noticed in themselves, and of course this is different for everybody. But somebody may have noticed thoughts running through their mind, such as I don't want to go into town, I'm worried about getting the bus, or I'm worried about a friend. They may notice changes in their behaviour, such as withdrawal from socialising, taking time off work, watching the news more. They may have noticed some physical feelings, such as palpitations, feeling sick, shaky, and on edge, and noticed a change in their emotions by feeling more anxious, fearful, stressed, and low. So, what thoughts have been running through your mind? What behaviours have you noticed yourself doing more or less of? And have you noticed any physical feelings or changes in your mood or emotions? So, what I would encourage you to do at this point is to pause the recording just to give yourself an opportunity to stop and reflect upon your own vicious cycle. I hope that was helpful to take that time. Remember that any feelings that you are experiencing are valid. There is no right or wrong to this. By filling in this cycle, it helps us to recognise when we're falling into these vicious cycles so that we can support ourselves in whatever way that we need to. We're going to focus on looking at the thoughts running through our mind next. So, when we're feeling down or angry or anxious, our thoughts tend to be more biased towards being more negative. When we're going through a stressful time, we may also be likely to think about things in a more negative way. So, becoming aware of our thoughts can help us to challenge them and see things slightly differently or in a more balanced way that hopefully will help with that vicious cycle that we've just looked through. So, what I would say whenever we're starting to think about the thoughts that are running through our mind is the first step is to get these thoughts out of our mind and down onto a piece of paper. By writing our thoughts down allows us to take that emotional step back from the thought and helps us to see things slightly differently. And then it can be helpful to challenge that thought with some of these questions that you can see here. So it could be by asking, what's the evidence for and against this thought? Is thinking this way helping me? How is thinking this way making me feel? Would I give this as good advice for somebody else? Often we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never dream of talking to anybody else. So asking ourselves if we would say that out loud to a friend or a loved one can just help us to reflect on whether we're being fair and kind towards ourselves. Are there other ways of thinking about this situation? Or if a friend told me they were thinking this, how would I respond to them? And is this a fact or my opinion? So it can be helpful to see our thoughts as being one possible explanation and not the only explanation. To be able to recognise that sometimes thoughts are just thoughts, that they're not evidence or facts, and sometimes they really don't help with how we feel. And this isn't about being or having a really positive outlook. It's about being more balanced and being fair and kind towards ourselves and talk to ourselves in a way that we would talk to other people. This can be really difficult to do when we're very first starting to challenge and to look at our thoughts. But with practice and perseverance, it will get easier to catch those thoughts and start to reframe them or see them in a more balanced way. As we looked at earlier, anxiety is a really common response. So it can be really helpful to look at where anxiety comes from and why we might be experiencing the symptoms that we're experiencing. So we can look at this by looking at the fight, flight, or freeze response. So you may have heard of the fight or flight response before. So this response is the body's self-defense mechanism, which we evolved to alert us to physical threats in our environment. Our fight or flight is physiological responses that occur when we perceive that we're in danger. Our body releases hormones such as adrenaline, which helps our body to prepare itself to cope with the threat or danger in front of us. This causes automatic physical reactions, which can be uncomfortable and distressing, but they are meant to keep us safe and help us to fight or flee. It's important to understand how this system works. Our ancestors needed to be aware of the potential for danger so they could act quickly. This means that the fight or flight alert system does not wait to see if there is danger, it is activated by the possibility of danger. We can understand how helpful this would be in keeping our ancestors safe and helping them to avoid predators and other dangers. However, this means that we can feel we are in danger and experience the effects of the fight or flight just by thinking something could happen, or of course, if we are in a situation where we are in danger. So it can be helpful to look at the physical symptoms that we might experience because these can be really unpleasant and frightening, but it's important to note that they are not dangerous. The physical sensations associated with anxiety can also become more distressing because we don't know why they are happening. So, strong palpitations or heart rate is linked to getting our blood to our muscles faster, but our muscles often become the priority because that's what's going to help us to fight or to flee. Breathing difficulties, so our breathing rate quickens and becomes shallow to take in more oxygen for the blood to pump to the muscles. And we'll look at some breathing exercises later on that can really help to slow that breathing rate down and the impact that that has, because that can lead to feeling lightheaded or feeling faint. Feeling hot or cold or sweating. So, our increased heart rate and more blood being pumped to the big muscles leads us to feel hot. We then sweat to cool down, and as our bodies try to dissipate excessive heat, we can feel cold. Feeling sick, nauseous, butterflies, or discomfort in our stomachs. So, digestion slows down as it's no longer needed, and energy is directed to those bigger muscles. So, again, it's prioritizing where that energy and that focus goes to. And poor concentration and memory. So, blood vessels in the frontal lobe of the brain contract as blood is directed to more essential areas. So, this again is not an exhaustive list. We all experience different physical sensations when it comes to anxiety. These are some of the common ones. And again, it's about recognizing that these symptoms aren't there to hurt us, but they are there to keep us safe. So, our fight or flight response is essential in order to keep us safe. However, if we recognise it's being activated in situations where it's not helpful, such as when we're trying to get to sleep, it can be helpful to learn ways to help to reduce the effects of the fight or flight response. When our fight or flight response is activated, we have the energy to physically fight or run away. If we're not doing anything active in our day, this extra energy isn't being used up. This is where physical activity can be really helpful to use up some of this extra energy. An activity like a brisk walk can be helpful. Relaxation and mindfulness can also be helpful when we think about reducing the effects of the fight or flight response, and we'll come back to these in more detail later on. But for now, we're going to go through a couple of quick breathing exercises which can be helpful. So, our body produces adrenaline when we're experiencing feelings of stress, and oxygen is used to produce adrenaline. Therefore, when we're anxious and we take a big deep breath in, this can actually produce more adrenaline and make things worse. So, when we are anxious, the best thing to do is to breathe out. An initial few sigh breaths, forcing as much air out of our lungs as possible and pushing our shoulders down, can really help. So the first technique we've got here is 4-7 breathing or rectangular breathing. So to lower oxygen levels, we can elongate our out breath. You can count to 4 as you breathe in and count to 7 as you breathe out. So this is only an example of timing, and counting to 3 and 6 or 2 and 4 is fine too. The important thing is that out breath is longer than the in breath. Another technique is belly breathing. So if you place a hand on your chest and your hand on your stomach, just take a second to observe which hand is moving more. Is it the hand on your stomach that's moving? Or is it the hand on your chest that's moving? Generally speaking, people tend to breathe expanding their chest when they're feeling stressed or are active. They tend to breathe into their stomach when calm and relaxed. So with this technique, you can focus on expanding your stomach when breathing in and contracting it when breathing out. It can be helpful to imagine a balloon inflating and deflating. It can also be really helpful to practice these techniques when we're feeling calm so that we know how to use the tools when we're feeling stressed or anxious. So I'd encourage you at this point to pause the video here just to practice one of these techniques and give them a try and see how it feels. Now let's move on to start to think about worry. So feeling anxious and experiencing uncomfortable physical sensations can cause us to worry more. Worry is a behaviour, so it's something that we do. So if we think about that vicious cycle that we looked at earlier on, worry would form as part of the behaviour part of that cycle because it's something that we engage in and it's something that we can change. Anxious thoughts and worry overestimate the perceived danger and underestimate our ability to cope with it, making us imagine the worst possible outcome and results in catastrophizing. We often experience what if thoughts, and worry is us trying to problem solve something which has no clear answer. This makes us feel more anxious and stressed. As we looked at earlier when we looked at the impact of news and social media, if that's something that you recognize within yourself, the impact that that might be having, you may resonate with something called doom scrolling. So doom scrolling is a term that was curated during the time of the pandemic. This describes when you spend a lot of time online scrolling through news and social media and find it difficult to break away. Sometimes when we're feeling down, we find ourselves looking for information to confirm how we feel. It can then become a habit of engaging this information to confirm and validate our feelings. So why is doom scrolling harmful? So doom scrolling can have a negative impact on our mental health. So research has shown it to increase feelings of anxiety, depression, fear and sadness. We may find it difficult to sleep, either due to the anxiety caused by what we've seen, so activating that fight or flight response, or from being unable to step away. Spending a lot of time on devices can lead to disconnection from the people around us and in turn loneliness. Having support from people around us is vital during these times. Sometimes online we see different or conflicting information. This in itself can make it difficult to know what to believe, creating uncertainty and anxiety. By engaging with the media, we're flooding our minds with a stress hormone called cortisol, which will have a huge impact on how we feel. So let's look at some ways that we can help to reduce doom scrolling. So to try limiting spending the time online. So it is okay to engage with some time keeping up with world events, but it's important that we limit this. So set limits on how and when you want to keep informed. Put your phone away. When you are doing other things, put your phone out of reach to make it difficult to fall into doom scrolling unconsciously. You are in control of what you see. So know that things can pop up out of our control, but to some extent try to follow or engage in pages or accounts that you find useful. If there are any accounts that have a negative impact on how you feel, then unfollow them. Recognize how you feel. As we spoke about earlier, checking in with ourselves is really important so that we can put into place the tools to help with how we feel. Recognize your thoughts, and if your thoughts are becoming negative, then think about challenging these thoughts as we looked at earlier on. Start to recognize if you unconsciously check your phone, and if so, are there things you can do to help with this? Becoming aware of it is a really good place to start. Focus on here and now. Later on, we will look at mindfulness and connecting back into the present. This can help if we're starting to ruminate or worry about things we may have seen online. Focus on positive news too. This can help us to see the positive things that are going on around us. And finally, move your body. Moving, as we spoke about earlier, is so important for our mind and body and can be a great alternative to distract from sitting and engaging with doom scrolling. If you do recognise doom scrolling as one of your behaviours, what I would say is pick maybe one or two of these tips to start with to focus on so it doesn't feel too overwhelming, and then you can start to bring in other tips too if that would be helpful. Let's now think about recognising our worries. So it's helpful to understand how the behaviour of worry starts. So this process can start with an image or a thought, which is often phrased as a what if thought, coming into our mind like a train coming into the station. We then think about this what if question, we chase the worry and leap on board the worry train. As we think about the what if, we start an episode of worry. Often because we're worrying about things in the future, we can never resolve the worry and find a solution or arrive at our destination. We often attempt to stop the worry, but asking ourselves to stop worrying about things that we feel are important is like trying to stop a train from coming into the station. So we need to instead to notice that we're on the worry train and choose to stay on or get off. And we can do this by looking at some techniques as part of the worry tree that we're going to move on to in just a second. It's very likely that civil unrest leads to worry. These worries may be practical, real life worries, or they may be worries about the future that start with what if. And we're going to look now at two different techniques that will help to manage those two different types of worry. So the worry tree can help us to determine which type of worry that it is that we're experiencing at this moment in time. So noticing the worry, asking ourselves what we're worrying about. Is this worry about a current problem or a hypothetical situation? And a really good way to know the difference or notice the difference is asking ourselves, can I do something about this right now? If it is something that we can physically do something about, then that will be a practical worry. If it's something that no matter how much time we spend worrying about that right now, it's not going to change the outcome, then that would be a hypothetical worry. So for current problems and those practical worries, we can look at action in them. For hypothetical worries, we'll look at a technique which is called worry time, which will help us to let the worries go. So hypothetical worries usually start with what if worries, and they have no way of being solved. It's not happening now, it might not happen, so it's something that I can't do anything about. Practical worries are worries that can be solved. It's a current problem and I can and should do something about it. These worries are things that have a practical solution, even though we might not know what that is yet. So there's those two different techniques depending upon which type of worry that it is that we're experiencing. So we'll look at problem solving to start with for those practical problems, and then we'll move on to looking at worry time for those hypothetical future focused worries. So the number of steps here for problem solving, and problem solving is something that we use regularly without even thinking about it. But when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, it can be really difficult to see the options that we have in front of us. So by breaking it down into a step-by-step plan just helps us to work through these problems and see the solutions that we have available in front of us. So the first step is identifying the problem that you would like to solve. For example, it could be finding a temporary alternative way to get to work rather than using public transport, a way that makes you feel safe. So identify some possible solutions. For example, could you travel with a colleague or maybe take a taxi or ask a friend or loved one for a lift? So write a list of all the possible solutions available to you right now. And then do a strengths and weakness analysis. So what is doable right now? What are the pros and cons of each? It may be that taking a taxi will be too costly, so asking a friend for a lift might be the choice that we want to go with to start with. So select which solution you want to go with. So let's say for this example, asking a friend for a lift. And then we're going to put the plan into place. But break that right down. What does that plan look like? What steps do I need to put into place before that can go ahead? So again, with this example, it might be that we need to ring or text a friend to find out if they're available at the time we need to get to and from work. So it would be thinking about, okay, when am I going to do that? And really breaking that down to schedule that time to do so. Implement the plan and review. How is it going? Do we need to change anything? If it isn't working for whatever reason, then there are other solutions available from step 2 that we listed earlier on. Again, it can be really difficult to break our problems down and to find possible solutions. So it can be really helpful to write this out. Again, by writing things out, we can take that emotional step back from them. Or if there are trusted loved ones around, it may be helpful to ask them to support you with this to start with. If you are finding it really difficult and there are perhaps a couple of practical problems going on at the moment for you, what I would say is start with the easiest whilst you're getting your head around this technique, and then start to work on the other ones too. So that's practical problem solving for those practical worries. Now we're going to look at worry time. So worry time is a really helpful technique for managing those worries that we can't do anything about right now. And it isn't that these worries don't matter or aren't important, because anything that is causing us worry is important. But it's about managing the impact on ourselves by worrying about something that is out of our control to change right now. So this technique helps you to be in control of the worry rather than the worry control you. So like with the problem solving technique, this is split out into a number of different steps. So we're going to work through this worry time technique now. So the first step is to plan in your worry time. So choose a time that works for you, ideally where you will be in not interrupted and no one will disturb you. It can be helpful to protect around 20 to 30 minutes. Choose somewhere comfortable to do this, and I would say not your bed, as we don't want to associate worrying with your bedroom environment, particularly if you're finding it difficult to get to sleep at the moment. And step 2 is writing your worries down. So throughout the day, whenever you notice a worry pop into your mind, write them down. You could do this in a worry diary or on your phone. There's no right or wrong, it's whatever works best for you. If you recognise them as hypothetical worries, then you'll save them for your worry time later on. So I've got some examples here. It could be that we're sitting at home thinking about the events and the worries that were popping into our mind, or what if this never ends? This is a hypothetical worry, so we would save this worry for worry time. And then we've got this practical worry example that we've just worked through here. So travelling home from work on the bus. Our worries, I don't feel comfortable travelling by public transport at the moment. And we looked a second ago at how we could use different solutions to help to manage that practical worry. So once we've wrote our worries down, we've identified the worries as hypothetical. If we identify them as practical, then we can look at problem solving. But what we want to do after we've wrote down our hypothetical worries is refocus back to the present moment. So bring your attention back to the task you were doing after you've made a note of the worry. And you can do this by trying to tune back into your environment. One way you could refocus your attention is to use your 5 senses. For example, if you were doing the dishes, you could focus on the smell of the washing up liquid or the temperature of the water. If you struggle to do this, it may be better to change the task entirely. Then continue with your day, making notes of hypothetical worries and refocusing your attention until you get to worry time. If you're really struggling to refocus back into the here and now, it can be helpful to change the environment, do something completely different, get up and make a drink or start a conversation or move into a different room. It can also be helpful to remind yourself that you'll be dealing with this worry later in worry time and that you won't forget as it's written down. So that too can help us to refocus back on the here and now so we don't feel that we have to keep ruminating over that thought. Some other techniques that can be helpful, such as noticing things around you. Can you see something that you haven't spotted before, particularly if you could see outside of a window? Engage in all of your five senses, listen to music, watch something enjoyable, practice some of the breathing techniques that we looked at or some of the relaxation techniques that we're going to move on to look at shortly. Play a game, play with any children, talk to someone, not about your worry. We're going to think about this worry later on at worry time. Do something practical, such as cooking a meal, do a different task, change your environment, physical exercise or go for a walk, be creative, read a book. And then we get to worry time. So whatever time of day that works for us, sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error to find a time that works best. But get to your worry time and sit down in the space you've chosen and worry. So it can be helpful to set a timer so you don't spend longer than the 20 to 30 minutes as you go through the worries, and ask yourself some of these questions to see if that helps with working through the worry. Again, there's no right or wrong in which you want to do this or how to do it. Some people like to write their worries out, some people like to sit and think about them. It's whatever works for you. There's absolutely no right or wrong. So, how did you feel when you wrote the worry down, and how do you feel about it now? Has this changed? Did the thing you were worrying about happen, particularly if it was about that day? If so, how did you cope? Are any of the worries no longer a problem? Would continuing to worry about it at the time have made a difference? Try not to think of new worries during your worry time. Try to focus on those worries that you have from the day. It can be helpful to cross off the worries as you work through them, and anything that you don't get through in the time can wait until the next worry time. If you identify any practical worries, you can use problem solving at a later time for these. And at the end of worry time, we want to really concentrate on refocusing back to the present. So focus your attention to another task to try to end the worrying or trying to refocus on the present. It can be really tricky to do this. It's not as easy as turning it on and off again. But again, the more you practice and persevere, the easier it will become. So choose something enjoyable or at least distracting and relaxing after worry time. And if a new worry pops up, even a couple of minutes after worry time, write it down for your next worry time the following day. After you've given worry try a go, you can always review how it went, whether the time limit was appropriate for you, whether the time of day worked. And like I said earlier, it can take a little bit of trial and error to find a worry time that works for you. Following on from refocusing in on the present, let's now focus on mindfulness. So, mindfulness can be really helpful when we're feeling anxious and overwhelmed. This is about engaging your senses, tuning in and being in the present. This can be really helpful in refocusing our attention and letting go of any worries. Mindful breathing, so our breath is ever present and can be used as an anchor when we want to practice mindfulness. Mindful activities such as walking, showering, washing up, we can be mindful during our daily activities. So, tuning into our senses, like we spoke about a second ago with worry time, of tuning into what we can see, smell, touch, taste, and hear. And this, because we can do it with the activities that we're doing on a day to day basis anyway, hopefully doesn't feel like we've got to build anything extra into our day. It's about being present doing the activities that we do anyway. Mindful meditation, so take some time out to sit and meditate. Evidence has shown regular meditation reduces depression symptoms and reduces worry and anxiety. So there are lots of different resources online for mindfulness. There are lots of fantastic apps out there on Google, on YouTube. It's just about finding ones that work for you. Relaxation can be really helpful to help to manage feelings of anxiety and stress too. Relaxation helps to reduce tiredness, improves performance, it releases endorphins, so our body's natural painkiller to help ease pain, helps us to cope with stress, helps us to improve sleep, improve self confidence. And again, like with a lot of the techniques that we've gone through today, it's more effective the more you use it. So sometimes when people first try relaxation, they find it really difficult. It may be that they notice their mind starts to wander and think about other things, but the more that we practice it, the easier it will become. So here are a few different relaxation techniques, and trying different ones to find ones that work for you can be really helpful. Breathing exercises, like we looked at earlier on, there's a great technique which is called progressive muscle relaxation, which we're going to have an opportunity to practice in just a second. Helps us to learn the difference between when our muscles feel tense versus when our muscles feel relaxed. Safe place imagery and guided imagery are other types of relaxation too. So we're going to have the opportunity to practice progressive muscle relaxation now. So, progressive muscle relaxation can be helpful for a wide range of reasons. So, it helps to reduce anxiety, high blood pressure, back pain, migraines, muscle tension, neck pain, and stress. So, progressive muscle relaxation is an exercise that reduces stress and anxiety in your body by having you slowly tense, then relax each muscle. This exercise can provide an immediate feeling of relaxation, but it's best to practice it frequently. With experience, you'll become more aware of when you are experiencing tension, and you will have the skills to help you to relax. So I'm going to play this technique now. So it's about 6 minutes long. If you are in an environment where you feel comfortable to give it a try, then please feel free to do so. Or you could always come back and listen to it at a later date. Just to say, if you do experience any pain in any of the muscle groups, please don't put yourself through any pain. Please stop with that muscle group. So I'm going to play the track now, and like I say, it's around 6 minutes long.
So for the progressive muscle relaxation, sit comfortably, pay attention to your body and notice whether any part feels tense. Close your eyes, relax your breathing and observe its natural rhythm. After a few moments, follow a natural breath out, making a little bit longer than usual. Then let the air in, let it gently fill your lungs and breathe out slowly, releasing any tension with the air. Notice as you breathe in, your stomach rising, and as you breathe out, it contracting. Breathe calmly in and out, and now let your breathing take care of itself. In a moment, I will ask you to tense up particular bits of your body. I would like you to tense the muscles up as you breathe in and hold the tension for a few seconds. Then, as you breathe out, let the tension go and relax your body. Breathe in, breathe out, get a regular rhythm going. Your attention to your feet. As you breathe in, curl your toes down and press your feet into the floor. Hold it and feel the tension in your feet. Then breathe out and relax. Again, as you breathe in, curl your toes down and press your feet into the floor. Hold it, breathe out and relax. Now your ankles. As you breathe in, lift your toes off of the floor and press your heels into the floor. Hold the tension and breathe out as you relax your ankles. Once more, as you breathe in, lift your toes off of the floor and press your heels into the floor. Hold it, breathe out, and relax. Next, your calf muscles. As you breathe in, straighten your legs out in front of you from the knees. Hold it for a few seconds. Breathe out and relax. Release all of the tension from your calves. Once more, as you breathe in, straighten your legs out in front of you. Hold the tension. Breathe out and let go. Relax. Now tighten up the muscles in your thighs. Hold it. Breathe out and let go. Again, tighten up the muscles in your thighs. Hold and notice the tension. Breathe out and let go. Relax. Your legs feel very heavy, very comfortable. You have no desire to move them. Now, as you breathe in, tighten up the muscles in your bottom. Concentrate on the feeling. Breathe out and let go. Once more, as you breathe in, tighten up the muscle in your bottom. Hold it, breathe out, and relax. Let your muscles go. Next time you breathe in, make your stomach muscle hard. Tighten up the muscles in your tummy. Hold it, breathe out, and let go. Once more, as you breathe in, make your stomach muscles tight. Concentrate on the tension. Breathe out and let go. Notice how your tummy feels soft and safe, and how very relaxed you're beginning to feel. Now your arms. As you breathe in, bend your arms at the elbows and tighten up all the muscles in your arms, right from your fingers to your shoulders. Hold it, let go, and breathe out. Again, bend your arms at the elbow and tighten all the muscles in your arms. Hold it for a few seconds, let go, and breathe out. Release any tension from your arms and allow them to rest comfortably in your lap. This time, as you breathe in, let even more air fill up your lungs and expand your chest just a little. Hold it, breathe out, and relax. Once more, let even more air fill your lungs as you breathe in and expand your chest. Hold it, breathe out, and relax. Let the air out. Next, as you breathe in, hunch your shoulders up towards your ears. Notice how they feel. Breathe out and let go. Again, hunch your shoulders up. Hold it, breathe out, and let go. Now they feel soft and free, easy and very relaxed. Lastly, think about your face. As you breathe in, tighten up all the muscles in your face. Pout your lips, screw up your eyes, frown, clench your teeth. Hold it, breathe out, and let go. Once more, as you breathe in, tighten up all the muscles in your face. Hold it for a few moments, breathe out, and let go. Sense how smooth your face is. There is no expression. Your forehead is smooth. Sense that your eyes are soft and dark. There is no tension in your jaw, no tension in your cheeks or mouth, none in your tongue or your throat. Your whole face is completely relaxed. Be aware with every breath, the relaxation increasing throughout your body and mind. In your own time, open your eyes. Wriggle your fingers and toes and stretch your arms and legs. Then just sit quietly for a while.
I hope that was helpful for anyone who did give that a try. And it may be an idea if you did give that a try, just to pause the video here, just to sit with that feeling of relaxation just a little bit longer, if that would be helpful. Now let's focus on self-care. So self-care is what fuels us. If you had no petrol in your car, you would not expect it to go, yet we expect to keep going when our tank is empty. You can also think of yourself as a battery that needs to be recharged with self-care. Looking after ourselves or self-care is crucial to our well-being. Self-care includes caring for our health, eating well, taking steps to be physically fit, continuing to learn, spending time on activities we enjoy, and lots of other different things. Self-care means different things for different people. It's just about finding what works for you and making this a priority. So when we're stressed, we often neglect to look after ourselves and our needs. So we need to put some active energy into caring for ourselves so that we can re-energize. So, self care is basically about trying to ensure that you address your needs on a regular basis and in a balanced way. We need to continually do this in order to keep stress levels within control, looking after our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. A lot of us think about self care when we get stressed or overwhelmed. However, a more useful habit is to make self care a part of our everyday lives, even when things are going well. Self care is linked to activities which give you a sense of pleasure, but also things that give you a sense of achievement. Again, it's different for all of us, but it's about recognizing what you view as self care for yourself that helps to recharge your batteries and building these into your day to day. So it could be things like mindfulness, relaxation, good sleep hygiene, so getting a good night's sleep, learning new things, keeping active with exercise, doing self nurturing things. Again, there's no right or wrong when it comes to self care, but it's recognizing it and giving yourself permission to do these activities. So, things to keep in mind. There is no one right way to feel after responding to high stress events like civil unrest. How people react depends upon a variety of factors, including their previous experience with similar events, their physical and mental health prior to the event, social supports and coping strategies, and ethnicity and religious beliefs, particularly if you feel your ethnicity or religion was targeted in the unrest. The most useful coping strategies are the people. Make sure you use your social support to help you to cope. Don't bottle it up. Spend time with trusted others to support your thoughts, emotions, and physical feelings. The phrase, "is it just me?" is really useful in these situations. Ultimately, all our reactions to any high stress event are attempting to make sense of the event. It may be helpful to realise that if flashbacks or dreams occur, it's a normal part of recovery and will usually diminish over time. Acceptance of our reactions in the short term and not fighting them will lead to them typically going away faster. Expect recovery. It takes time to recover, so be patient with yourself. But know that most people who experience a traumatic event do not go on to develop mental ill health. Avoid using alcohol or drugs to cope, as they prevent your ability to work through the thoughts and emotions brought up by the stressful event. They also interfere with sleep, which makes it harder for your body to recover from stress. Now let's look at supporting others. So it can be difficult to support people around you if you're not sure what to say or how to support. So start off with opening conversations, giving someone an opportunity to talk about how they're feeling. Being a listening ear offers incredible amounts of support. Show empathy and understanding. Their feelings are valid no matter how they are feeling. Acknowledging this and creating an empathetic space is so powerful. Offer practical support. If they have a practical problem, help them to solve it. Can you support in any way? Show solidarity and check in with them. Keep the lines of communication open. Allow them to know they have a safe space to talk and check in regularly. And finally, we're going to have a look at the support available. When the social and political landscape breaks through into our lives, leading to riots and civil unrest, the impact can feel very frightening and destructive. The climate of fear, destruction, and uncertainty can scar individuals, neighbourhoods, and nations. Even if you aren't directly involved, news and social media can make you feel as if you are. Direct and indirect exposure to civil unrest can take a toll on your body and mind. The impact of civil unrest and riots on mental health is well documented. As we have seen, even if you aren't directly involved, the current atmosphere in the UK can feel very frightening. Impacts on your emotions, thinking, physical sensations, and behaviours should be expected. Remember, there are tools and techniques that can help during this difficult time. And also remember, expect recovery. The majority of people experiencing traumatic events like civil unrest do not go on to develop long-term mental ill health. You will recover in the short term. If your symptoms continue, then you can access support. So here we've got a wide range of different services that may be able to offer support. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but this is just some of the services that will be able to offer some help and support. So your GP is there just as much for your mental health as your physical health, so please do reach out to them for any support. Leicestershire and Rutland NHS Talking Therapies. So I'm going to move on the next slide in a second to look at how you can refer to our organisation. The Samaritans are a 24-hour helpline that you can contact about absolutely anything at all, and they're available 365 days a year. Victim First are another great organisation to be aware of for their support. Campaign Against Living Miserably or Calm is a dedicated organisation to support with men's mental health. Give Us a Shout is a text line support, so very similar to the Samaritans, but receiving that support via a text. The Black African and Asian Therapy Network is the UK's largest independent organisation focused on providing psychological support for people of Black, African, Asian and Caribbean heritages. They aim to address the inequality of access to appropriate psychological services through events, training and partnership. Papyrus are prevention of young suicides. They support individuals up to the age of 35. The Muslim Community Helpline offers confidential, non-judgmental listening and emotional support for women, men, youth and children. This organisation was established in 2007 and it aims to provide a supportive service to help members of the community with their needs. The central access point is for anybody who is living in Leicestershire and Rutland who needs urgent mental health support. So that's a 24-hour number that you can contact there too. And the Muslim Women's Network UK operates a national specialist helpline offering confidential and non-judgmental support, information and referrals for those at risk of abuse or facing various issues. They primarily support Muslim women but are open to women of any faith or no faith. And finally, moving on to how to reach out to our organisation for support. So, there are a number of ways that you can self-refer for our support. You can refer to NHS Talking Therapies via your GP, or you can self-refer on our website that you can see there, or to scan that QR code will take you directly to our self-referral form. You can give us a call on our number that you can see there, or you can text us on 88802. So there is a wide range of services that are available to support. Please don't feel like you can't ever reach out for support. Please don't ever hesitate when it comes to reaching out for support. All of these organisations are here to support you. So please do reach out for additional support should you need it. So thank you so much for joining me for this session. I really hope what we've covered has been helpful. Thank you and take care.